So I'm looking at the chat window as well.
We are now live. You can begin.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Committee AM. Looks like we have almost everybody here, so we definitely have quorum, so we're good to go. Looks like Councillor Bean is absent, so we'll look for any disclosures of pecuniary interest. I haven't received any notice so far, so if you have any, please speak up now. And that looks like a nobody. Okay, on the agenda, we do have listed the medical officer of health update regarding COVID, but that is not taking place during this committee. County Council, for those watching, have a special meeting at 10 o'clock. So in just an hour, and we will receive that update as a whole body of council. Which then moves us right on to infrastructure and development services. We have one information report, looking for a motion to receive that report on the county emergency declaration. Warden Weaver moves that. Councillor Ferguson seconds that. Any discussion? Yes, Councillor Bird.
Thank you to the chair. So through the chair to staff, I'd just like to say that thankfully the number of COVID-19 deaths has not increased for a long time, and appropriate distancing and extra hand sanitizing seems to be sustaining us very well. People know what works, and everything has been stable for a good period of time now. Children have all gone back to school, so I believe all the leaders of the community, elected or operational, should definitely be going back to their normal places of work too. So is there really any need to continue this state of emergency? More specifically, Warden and CAO, if you could tell us to what definitive evidence or point of reference you are using for this continued directive.
Yes, perhaps we can start with the warden, and then we'll go to the CAO.
Certainly, and definitely we are doing a fantastic job here in Lambton County. We are, and the people are doing a great job at keeping our numbers low. Provincially, and some areas are having more cases. We just have gone back to school. I think this is something that needs to be kind of reviewed on a month-to-month basis with the whether we have the declaration. The report speaks to how it, what it does for us, and I agree that we need to start to get things back to normal a little bit, possibly in another month. I know we tabled the motion to have our committee meeting actually live at the county building this month, but we'll look at that again. With the schools going back, people moving indoors, there's certainly the thoughts of a possible second wave. So I guess I agree with this recommendation right now. And if you look at the maps that are across the province, most places are keeping it active. It's not really making a lot of difference operational wise on what we're doing at the county by having it active, and it needs to be looked at as we keep going forward. So I don't know whether Ron has anything else to add to that.
Mr. Van Horn?
You're on the mute thing.
He doesn't realize.
There you go.
There, sorry, I was on mute. No, Warden Weaver, you summed it up pretty well. We've always said as a group that if there's going to be a second wave, it would likely come up in the fall here. And whether we're in a second wave or whether it's we never got out of the first wave is maybe semantics, but you see what's happening in the three large urban areas, and of course in London now, they were when the premier talks about there maybe being a fourth area, he's speaking about the city of London and the issues they're having. So I think as a group, we've always talked about keeping it in effect over the course of the fall, just to see how things roll out in the fall here. And we can revisit this every month if council would like, but we're just kind of going on a month-to-month basis to see what the numbers are like for us as a region. And I think it's better for consistent messaging if rather than having the declaration, getting rid of it, and then reissuing the declaration the following month, just all tied to numbers. So we're taking a conservative approach, and I think it's the right one for this time.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Napper.
I just had a question. If we can pull out of that, then does all the provincial rules go out the window? We're back to normal again? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, the provincial rules supersede anything we're doing anyway. So we can just control our own environment in terms of our own declaration and our own bylaws if we have them. But no, the province will do what the province is going to do in its area of jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you. Any other further questions or comments? Well, again, I want to thank the warden and staff for this report. It's actually it's quite thorough, sums it up nicely. It's very much appreciated again, and for all of the meetings that you're having regarding the emergency and taking everybody's health into consideration. Certainly want to express my appreciation for that extra effort during this time. So thank you for that. The motion is on the floor. If there are no further questions, we'll look for the question to be called. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, we have one item under infrastructure requiring a motion regarding snow equipment purchasing. So there's a change to the strategy based on delays. I'll look for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Miller. Any questions? I see none from the rest of the committee. I know I have one, Mr. Cole. And forgive me if I missed this in the read here, but are we expecting to be over budget this year for maintenance as a result of the delay in delivery of the new equipment?
Thank you, Chair. No, I think the impact of this report isn't going to make us over budget. We may see slightly higher maintenance costs because we don't have the new equipment, but it won't be it won't be material to a deficit position.
Thank you.
And the charges for this equipment would still fall in the year that it's received, so it wouldn't impact the 2020 budget.
Okay, thank you. So just a shift in when and how we purchase. So any other questions? I see none. All in favor? That is carried. Any other business for infrastructure and development? Looks like a big zero. All right. Thank you, Mr. Cole. Thank you to the team. And we're moving on to public health. We have one item here to receive and file under correspondence. Looking for a mover and a seconder on that. Deputy Warden moves. Councillor Ferguson seconds that. It's a letter from Muskoka District Health Unit. Any questions? No? All in favor? That is received. We have 4 information reports here. I'll look for a mover to accept these reports all together. So A, B, C, and D. Councillor Miller, Councillor Napper seconds. Any discussion or questions on any of these reports? Councillor Bird.
Thank you. Through the chair. I realise that it's impossible to check every eatery on the same frequency, but I think there's a strong focus needs to be brought to how and when people are wearing masks and the amount of contact that waiters and waitresses are having with things like laying the tables, collecting the dirty dishes, going backwards and forwards to the kitchen, outside to smoke, etc., etc. And of course, this is what they all normally do outside of the COVID-19 situation. But my point is that they wear the same mask throughout their shift, taking it in and on and off and handling it, putting it in and out of their pocket. I've been observing this, and both in the restaurant and outside on their breaks in all their different daily activities. And we're not all contracting the COVID-19 disease. And as Dr. Renaday has already said to us, there's no definitive proof to show that wearing a mask either prevents sharing the disease or contracting the disease. In fact, given all the activities of restaurant workers, the masks are going in and out of these different areas and are not washed or sanitized like their hands every time they come back into a room. Therefore, if there's any infection lighting around in the restaurants by wearing the mask, the workers are probably spreading it anyway. So just my observations, so just my comment on that one. And then we've got, let me just check here, 5B. We've got the grants item, I believe, under this one as well. So I think the grants may be good, but if you're really focused on the health and well-being of our aged community, money won't help the real virus, which is the tragic effects of total isolation for those precious seniors who already live alone. Just my thoughts.
Thank you. Any comments from staff on the points raised from the councillor?
Through you, Councillor Wade. I guess I appreciate the comments from Councillor Bird. And what's important to understand is the premises, the operators of those do have a make sure that are wearing outer garments. Focus now with the masses.
Excuse me, Mr. Taylor, you're cutting in and out. We can't hear you.
Sorry. I hope that's a little bit better. Am I coming across clearer?
Thank you.
Better. Thank you.
I apologize. So with respect to your comments, I'll start with the food safety comments you made. Our staff ensure in their inspections, and our operators are very good at understanding their requirements to ensure their employees wear clean outer garments. So when when we get complaints about something specific, we can deal with it in that regard. But with respect to the masks, that may or not be so. That's PPE, and it's up to the duty is on the operators to make sure that their staff have adequate supplies of PPE for their employees. So I think that's very important, and we're there to lend guidance on that. I will review our materials that we have online. We have a number of supportive materials for our food premises operators, and I'll just take a look at it to see what we talk about for frequency of changing PPE. So I appreciate the comments on that.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Any other comments or questions in regards to either of these, any of these four information reports? I'm seeing none, so I'll call the question. All in favor? And that is passed. Those reports are received. And we have one report requiring a motion, that is school-focused nurses in public health units. Look for a mover and a seconder to open that up for discussion. Warden Weber moves that. Councillor Ferguson seconds that. Any questions or comments? Councillor Bradley, and then Councillor Bird.
I had raised this probably about a month ago with Dr. Ronde, and about having, like Toronto, a rapid response to the opening of the schools. And so I really want to know the status of other places that are up and running in the schools to deal with the situation. has the hiring started, or were they waiting today for this resolution to be passed?
To you, Councillor White. Yes, I appreciate the question. You have raised this subject and you've received some response from Dr. Ronaday. So I can report today that in advance of this report, Councillor Bradley, we have posted for those positions for the new nurses. In fact, the ministry is requiring specific reporting on the status daily. So we send in a report every day before 4 p.m. to tell them where we are with the hiring process. So I can tell you today that all the hiring has been completed. We are just in process of onboarding the employees, reference checks, etc. So we are moving forward with this.
Okay, that's good. The way the resolution is worded, it would appear that we're way behind in the process, but you've addressed the concern. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Thank you for the response. Councillor Bird.
Thank you. Through the chair, just some comments and observations. So I don't know if this was the same in Canada, but in England, in infant and primary school, there was always a full-time nurse and assistant on the school premises, and she carried out checks on the children regularly. Whilst I think it's a good idea to have a full-time nurse in all the schools, I don't believe we should be adding this specifically because of COVID-19. When you look back at all the different viruses, diseases, and bacterial infections that have passed through here over the past centuries, many of them far worse than the current flu strain, when nothing extra was put in place, as you're proposing to do now, it gives me some serious concern. So it is a good idea to have a full-time nurse permanently in every school, always, then yes, but not just for one specific situation. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. And thank you for that update, Mr. Taylor. That was certainly my question as well, and I know we've discussed it before, but it does appear we're getting there. It's obviously from my perspective, and I'm not laying blame on the province or anybody at this point, but to be very clear, schools have already opened, yet the nurses that were there to help with the reopening strategy aren't quite in place yet. But I appreciate that you're working diligently to get those nurses in place. So thank you for that update. Are there any other questions or comments on this motion? I see none. I'll call the question. All in favor? And that is passed. Is there any other business for public health? Either from committee members or staff? That looks like a big 0 on that as well. So thank you again to the team at Public Health for everything you're doing, and we'll look forward to further discussion in a few minutes with the whole committee or the whole council. Thank you. On to cultural services. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 items of correspondence to receive and file. All grants, all good news. So I will look for a motion. Councillor Miller, anyone care to second that? Deputy Warden Marriott. Is there any discussion on these grants? And I'd certainly open that up to Mr. Meyer as well, if you'd like to just simply discuss these grants.
If there's no questions, then yes, through
Okay.
the chair, in the absence of an information report, I just wanted to provide a very quick update. The grant became available in late June, and we had a very quick response, as you can see from the letters, in early August. And we're quite pleased with the funding that we received. This funding was designed as COVID-19 relief to supplement loss in program revenues at our museums and gallery. And our preliminary consultation with the program advisors indicate that the funding can also be used and allocated to support care collections, maintain jobs, and also promote the continuity of activities, which we've reactivated this month. So just thought I'd give that context to council.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions regarding these, or any questions? No, last call. And I will call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Is there any other business regarding cultural services? I see none. All right, thank you, sir, and thank you to the team. We're moving on to corporate services. We have one information report regarding the committee appointments. I'll look for a mover and a seconder to receive that. Councillor Ferguson is moving that. Councillor Napper is seconding that. Is there any discussion on committee AM and committee PM rotations 2021? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. And we have one report requiring a motion, and that's in regards to the warden and deputy warden's election for the term of 2021 and 2022. I'll look for a mover and a seconder to receive or move this recommendation. How's that? Councillor Bird moves. Councillor Ferguson seconds that. Is there any discussion? Councillor Bradley.
So I guess would be to Mr. Van Horn or to Mr. Tebow. On the deputy warden's election, we've discussed this before. I don't know if it's appropriate at this point. I think there should be notification of who's standing for that office for county council prior to that meeting. And the way it's set up now, and even in this format, you call for nominations and all they get to do is stand up. There's no speeches or anything else. I think it would be helpful if we asked, whether it be 24 hours or 48 hours before the meeting, that one must file that they're going to run for deputy warden. And I'm just throwing that out there because I think it's very difficult that day when you don't know who's going to stand up. They don't get to speak. And I think it would be helpful for all of us if we had at least some notice on who's going to stand and then be prepared that day. And I just throw that out there, and I'll bring a motion if there's any support for doing that. And if there isn't, I'll just leave it as it is.
Okay. Mr. Tifo, do you have any response to that, or I can just move over to questions? I've got Councillor Ferguson and Napper as well lined up.
Yeah. The only response I have is it's really council's process. So if council as a whole wishes to amend that process to require advance notification of candidacy for any minimum period of time, then council can certainly adopt a resolution to require that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ferguson and then Councillor Napper.
The remark I'd like to make is on balance of the council. So if you have a warden come in from a sector of the county, we don't know until that warden is elected. Then I'd like to see a deputy warden to be complementary. It could be from a urban center or from the different opposite end of the county, which when you're declaring beforehand, we have no idea who the warden will be. And then at that time, so people could be popping up. I do like to see who the warden is first. Then I can help my vote and see what sector of the county for a deputy warden. That's my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Napper?
Yeah, I think now that it's such a high paid position that they should earn their money, and I like the idea of being declared the same as a warden, and it gives you an opportunity. I know they all come out and visit and everything, but most you have your mind made up before you go there. But I would like to hear just what their views is on it.
Okay. Thank you for that. Deputy Warden Marriott.
I'd just like to respond to Councillor Bradley's comment. I would support that, but just there have been speeches in the past for the deputy warden position once they did declare. As you mentioned, there was no speeches, but there always have been speeches in the past.
Okay. Well, certainly open. Yes, Councillor Bradley.
I'm not detecting any great overwhelming push for change. So I'm not going to bring a motion at this point. And I don't see in the list to Mayor Marriott, I don't see where the deputies get to speak. And I think that should be a courtesy that's there. And if you need an amendment to say they get to speak for 2 minutes, I'd be willing to move that just in a matter of fairness, even though we know everyone knows everyone. I think it's not in the rules. So if that's acceptable, I just move that we give them 2 minutes to speak that day.
Okay. Mr. Tifo, would that work as an amendment to this particular motion?
Absolutely. So
Okay.
if I understand correctly, it's to allow candidates for the position of deputy warden to give a brief speech of no longer than 2 minutes, and that's fine. I've got that recorded. The other piece I wanted to bring to your attention is that at the time of drafting the report, the impetus of the report was this notion that your rules require confidential voting, i.e. anonymous voting for both of those positions. And it was difficult to do that on this forum, on the Zoom software. But that being said, so that you know, there is an ability to host a confidential vote and to carry out a confidential vote on Zoom. And that could be an alternative should things deteriorate from a public health perspective in the community. That is, if council wishes, we could always host the meeting, much like we're holding it now, and hold a confidential vote of both those positions through the Zoom software. Just wanted to update you on that.
Okay, Councillor Bradley.
Again, the question is, do you need to have that put in place right now, depending on the circumstances, that you could go ahead and do it and get that authorization now if we're in a different situation come December? Do you need that from us, or you simply would bring that forward after assessing the situation with Mr. Van Horn?
Yes, good question. What I need now is the ability to go to the venue, the facility, and rent it for the day. So if we can get that done through the resolution that's currently on the table, that'd be great. Should things change in terms of public health matters and we need to move back to the online forum, then at that point in time, I will bring advance notice of that to council for council to deal with at that time. I just wanted to put it on the floor now if you wanted to already go down that path versus the path that we're currently on.
That seems fair. Councillor Napper, you had your hand up?
No, I guess I was just waving at somebody.
Fair enough. It's a nice thing to do. So we have an amendment that's been moved to allow the deputy warden's position or the candidates to speak for 2 minutes. I don't have a seconder for that amendment yet. Warden Weaver seconds that. So I'll call the question on the amendment. All in favor? That's passed. So that brings us back to the amended motion. Is there any further discussion, or are there any further questions? Yes, Councillor Napper, would you like to speak, or are you just waving again?
I was just curious here. It's for my own information. I noticed other counties, don't they just stand up and say they're running and then they take the vote? That would be the good, honest way to do it, and I would think it'd be interesting. But I thought maybe Middlesex does it that way. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody could, just curiosity.
Yeah, I spoke to a warden from Middlesex a couple of years ago, and I think they only have 1-year terms. So I believe they never run off actually against each other. They just kind of decide amongst each other who's going to run each year, and I don't believe it's ever opposed.
Keep everybody honest.
Okay, well, thanks for that perspective. It's a different way of doing things for sure. So anything else? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that is passed. So we will be at the fairgrounds unless things deteriorate from a public health perspective. So we have no in-camera reports for today for this committee. So I will look for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Bird, Councillor Bradley, all in favor? And that is carried. We'll see everybody in a half an hour.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.